Without further ado, let's kick our conversations off. Keelan, welcome. Hey,
Hi.
and Ankit is going to be joining us there with the camera, no doubt, too. So, Keelan, we might kick things off with you. I would love to hear about your experience studying, what made you come back, and why.
Yeah, of course. And it's great to see so many people dialing in from abroad. I'm in Dublin, so it's not too far away. So I think I've lost that competition. But no, it's great to be here today. I'm in my first year of my postgrad masters in education and training and leadership. And to be really honest, I've had fantastic support from my organisation, the American Chamber, and they really encouraged me to go back to further education. I've got my undergrad. I did a diploma as well a few years ago, but really, I'm working in the leadership field to really kind of to delve in deeper, understand a little bit more about leadership, and then work with our members then as well. So it's a great course, and it's a great university as well. So looking forward to talking a bit more about that then today.
Amazing. And Derek, I'll go next to you. You are finished your studies. Very, very jealous. I'm staring down the barrel of my thesis now. Would you like to tell us a little bit like what your experience was and how you...
Yeah, no, thankfully I am actually not in any way envious of your position. God love you. Yeah, no, actually, much in the same way as Keelan there. Like, it was a great go back. I actually did in a way, I kind of went back for round two at DCU because I did my bachelor's. Beforehand, I did the BA Applied Language, and now I did the MSc there. It was a bit of an unusual one given the circumstances, but no, it was great to be able to get back in and be able to sort of expand on what I'd already done professionally and then also academically, and then just the atmosphere as well was just kind of a nice kind of, even with the unforeseen circumstances, it was still quite lovely atmosphere to be in, that kind of way.
Amazing. And Ankit, like myself, you are still studying, so we would love to hear about your experience and what drew you to DCU.
Sure. You mentioned, I'm currently studying. I'm a full-time postgraduate student, and I'm currently studying my master's. I'm doing my master's in computing. So the computing module has three majors. So I am doing my major in secure software engineering. So it's like a good mix of the security domain along with good mix of software engineering, and it has been a tremendous experience so far. I have passed my first semester with good grades, and now I'm working on my project and the second semester together, a lot of assignments to do. But it's a good learning curve. There are a lot of things. I'm staying on campus as well, so it's a good experience altogether. Like, it's a good exposure to me, so it's a good experience that way.
Amazing. I was on campus for my undergrad and I can totally attest to that. It's a really, really fun place to be. So much society activity, so much beyond your studies, which I'm sure you can all attribute to. You can find a little bit of time to have some fun despite the intensity of the studies. So we might kind of talk, we're going to get more into the specifics of the courses in the other conversations with the specific faculties, but we might talk a little bit today, as we're touching on there, about what is enjoyable about it or what's most exciting about studying here. I know for me, the network that I've built has been amazing, and I always really enjoy in DCU. It was the same in my undergrad and my master's that I'm nearly finished now, but how industry linked it is in DCU. We've had really relevant guest lectures, and it's just been brilliant and great to see how applicable it is to the world that I'm going to go back out into now and use it in that world of work. So Keelan, I'd love to hear about you. I know you're being supported through it, through your work, which is a really, really interesting way to come into something as well. But you might tell us a little bit about why you find it so enjoyable.
Yeah, perfect. So, like you've said, it's a network that you build up. So I did an undergrad in UCD and there was 500 in each class. So, you'd see someone one day and you don't see them again until you finish up. So actually having the size of class, I think there's about 20 of us in my class at the moment. And it's just that kind of, you get to know people a lot better. We're all from different work environments, totally different experiences. But it's interesting to see how much crossover there is. There's some who are working in education at the moment and I'm in industry. So it's getting to see that crossover. It's not too different, but they're totally different work environments. So that's what I really enjoy at the moment from it. and kind of getting to learn totally new things that I never would have come across either. And hearing from the lecturers, they're so experienced in what they're talking about, and it's great to see. And you have that kind of rapport with them. It's a smaller class. You get to ask so many more questions than you would do in a big lecture hall, and it's really getting to delve deeper into topics then as well, and learn from their experience that they have. So I think for me at the moment, I'm kind of in my second semester, and it's kind of getting used to all of that now, and building up those relationships.
Amazing. And Ankit, now I know you are living on campus, so I know exactly what that's like and how much you can get involved with there. So I might ask the same question to you, because I know you're really involved in society life and everything else there at the moment. So how have you found the experience of being a student, particularly on campus? If his mic has just dropped there for a little moment, we might go to you, Derek. I know you went through college in strange times. I'm only just getting back into some lectures on the ground now, but how was it beyond kind of maybe logging in and out of Zoom for different lectures? What things did you find really enjoyable about it?
Actually, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to yourself and Keelan there. They were mentioning about, that sort of the network you build. Like, okay, we were only through a screen, but we were we were a smaller class, only about 20 people. So you really got to know people, and it was kind of the collaborative effort, I think, was really good. Like, especially for the master's program, everyone kind of had some experience, I think, to bring to it more so than what you might find in the bachelor's. So you found a lot of people, there was this sort of feeling that you weren't just learning from the lecturers, you were learning from each other, which is kind of a really nice kind of thing we were kind of trading experiences, trading stories. And even during the lectures, we were just chatting sometimes, about our, experiences that way, which actually was honestly a bit more useful sometimes even than just reading out of a book. And, as you were saying, like that network, that building that, then I'm still contacting my, classmates every so often, and they contact me for little questions, and, and just that kind of atmosphere of like that collaborative atmosphere, I think was really what it was. That one, DCU kind of lends itself to that, and also the lecture style, the way like everything's done, the whole like atmosphere of the university kind of sort of supports that. I think was one of the best parts for me, really.
Amazing. A question in there from Deborah as to whether this is going to be, all of the info this week will be for prospective students or current students. I know I'll definitely learn something from listening all week, but it is for prospective students. So anyone considering studying in DCU, we are here for you. We want to answer your questions. Anything at all you might be wondering about coming here to study, let us know, and we'll do our best to get great answers for you. And now, Ankit, I know you dropped off there, but we might jump back to you. I think your experience is one of the most exciting in so many ways, because I know you're so involved in society life. You get to be on campus. That's something that, say, myself or Derek might have missed a little bit over the last few years with Zoom links and things like that. I'm lucky now, I'm still getting some of it back this year. But tell people watching what that's like and how enjoyable it is to get really, really involved when you get here.
Sure. So, as mentioned, it's always exciting to live on campus. So, you get that campus vibe and to explore things on campus literally. So, DCU itself has, like, I would say it has such a good library. So, like, all the nerds and geeks out there, you can just go out and explore the library. You can, like, I have seen people spending their entire day at the library. I was like, oh, why do you spend so much time? And I went there a few times, and now I know why do they do that. Then I would say, like, there are football turfs. So if I see some football fans, some Messi and Ronaldo fans out there, and if they like playing football, there are Astro turfs at DCU. So it's like a 5v5 or a 6v6 turf. So you can just go there and you can play football. And then, like, there's a gym, and there's a swimming pool and everything on campus. And then, like, if you want to explore, like, someone like dogs and like exploring and socializing, there's Albert College Park, which is next to DCU. So I usually go there. I like clicking pictures, and I like socializing with people. So I just go there for a walk, and it's like good around on DCU. And then, like, it is very accessible when you're staying on campus, because like you'll save on travel costs. and everything as such. And then being an international student in my course, it's the majority is people from my country, but then because I'm in a lot of societies as mentioned earlier, so I'm in badminton, red brick, and tennis, and like I'm a person who likes sports. So it's there that I try to do build my networks. I try to speak to the professors as much as I can, and I can gain as many insights that I can in general. So it's a good experience so far in that way.
Amazing. And a new addition to DCU, anyone who joins us next year will get to enjoy the student centre. It's beautiful. It's gotten built since my undergraduate degree and I'm so jealous of it. It's absolutely gorgeous. So there's always some madness going on if you're floating around. All of the plays and shows and everything thrown on there as well are absolutely brilliant fun. Now, Keelan, I'd say a lot of people listening in today will be looking at doing a master's or a diploma, maybe with employer support. As the person who's done that here on this call, what was that like for you coming in here with the American Chamber, and why do you think they wanted to invest in your career the way that they did?
Yeah, so as I said, I'm so fortunate with my organization, but I don't think we're alone. I think most employers, especially in the current market, are eager for their employees to continuously learn and develop as well. So I was really lucky. They've given us the financial support, which is, such a help. Without that, I wouldn't have been able to come back and do a master's. But also the space that they provide me with. So actually, I'm on study leave days today and tomorrow. They give me time off to head out to lectures. We've got lectures in person and online, so it's giving me the time to get out to the in-person lectures on time and kind of that space to kind of sit down and read up ahead of the class and come out. But no, they've been fantastic. They're also so eager to help. We're a small team, there's only 15 of us, but everyone's so eager to share their expertise with me and help me on any kind of topic that I'm studying about or doing assignments. They're more than eager, or connect me with people that they know that might be able to help me as well. So really, I'm really fortunate with my employers, but as I said, I don't think I'm alone in that. Helping me get in the application form and everything like that, reference letters. But I just think having that dialogue with them and letting them know this is what I want to do, and it's supporting me in the role that I'm in, but also continuously to support the chamber then as well.
Fantastic. I think that's an absolutely brilliant way. And as you say, you're definitely not alone. There's so many companies now looking to retain their talent. It's definitely an employee's market, so they know they can run away and leave them if they don't help them grow. But that is absolutely brilliant. I see we've got people in from Oman, Italy, France, and Riyadh as well. We are very global right now. Pitbull has nothing on us, Mr. Worldwide. So guys, any questions? We're going to come to a little Q&A in a moment. If there's any areas of study that we have or haven't touched on that you want to know a little bit more about, ask us and we are more than happy to answer. But next, I suppose if you all have any advice about people thinking of applying, I was not as organised as all of the wonderful people considering studying today. I made a little split decision about a week before my course started in the middle of the pandemic, and I was like, I need to do a master's right now. And I went off and I was very lucky and I managed to get in on time. But I think if people are looking and planning well ahead of time, there's different scholarships you can look at. There's lots of different access streams you can look at. And I suppose I'd love to hear a little bit about all of you coming into your course and how you did that. So Derek, I might go to you first about what your application process was like and how you would advise anyone else to go about it if you have any mistakes we can learn from.
Yeah, no, that's no problem. In a way, actually, I was kind of similar to yourself, though not through any intent to do so. On my side of things, I actually applied in 2019 for mine and actually had to defer, which is also actually something that I would actually say is if you actually do need to, that is an option there as well. So like if, say, you are really set on going for the Masters, but unfortunately something does happen, there's a lot of like sort of systems in place to help you. Unfortunately, when I applied in 2019, just things kind of happened, unfortunately. And I was like, oh God, am I going to have to give up my place? And if I give up the place, will that mean I won't be able to apply for it again? And in fairness, no, DC was like, look, we can just kind of hold you for a year and then we'll bring you in next time. And it's like, okay. So that was at least something of a calming kind of thing. That, like also, of course, if you really do just find the course and you fall in love with it, just go for it. but also, if you have the only advice I would give is maybe read a little bit about the course, just to make sure that you have the right one. In my case, it was actually 2 translation masters, so it's just you have to make sure you've actually. The big thing is just read through your application, I'd say, afterwards, because I nearly actually applied to the wrong course with the wrong code. So that's just, a personal thing. Just, you'd be surprised when you've written up your entire, personal essay, you've done several forms, several read-throughs. You'd be surprised the title is the thing you don't think to check. And that's the one to check. Honestly, I think that's my big advice. Check the title.
Marvelously practical. It is a big investment of time and money to go off and send yourself down the wrong thing. That's very funny. Thank you, Derek. Ankit, I suppose the same question to you then as well. Any advice with your application process and any tips or tricks you have for anyone or
for me it was fairly easy. I applied on the first day the applications opened up back in 2020. December, it was 1st or 2nd of December, I still remember, and I got my conditional offer letter in 2 days, and I was so elated. It was so quick, and it was because I had a few friends who were alumni at DCU. I had planned to get into DCU, and it was good. But overall, if there are any prospective students that are coming in, as Derek mentioned, I would ask them to thoroughly mention what they have done in their past, whatever achievements they have. Just outline it really, really well, because that helps. That tells you what you have done so far, and you should tell your future goal as well. So what your future goal is to achieve, and how DCU might help you or play an important role in achieving that. So that was how I formulated my statement of purpose or my personal essay, and it really helped me that way. And my major goal was doing something during COVID-19, because that was a global indicator. The pandemic was a global indicator, and I wanted to work for people. And because Ireland had a good research and facilities like that, for me it was that way. Additionally, because I am from a IT domain, so it's we have a lot of majors which are similar. Everything is related internally, but I would specifically mention the students just try to go through the course, just see what is happy for you, and not choose the happy path oh, everyone is doing this, so I'll do that too. That's not going to help you further. And if I speak about scholarships, DCU itself gives a 2,000 euro scholarships if you are eligible. But apart from that, there's a Government of Ireland scholarship, which is a very, very, very prestigious scholarship, I would say. And only 60 people all over the world for bachelor's, master's, PhD get it. I was fortunate enough to even get shortlisted for it. From 5,000 to 200, I was shortlisted. But again, since it is that prestigious, I did not get into the top 60. So yeah, that is all some bits and pieces. I can keep on speaking for a long, long time. I can guide everyone, but we are short on time. So if anyone wants to reach out to me for anything, I am always available on LinkedIn. So yeah.
Amazing. And Keelan, same question to yourself as well, because we've all applied for different courses and come through really different routes. So any advice that you'd expand on about coming through from an employer?
Yeah, I think like the guys have said, I think giving yourself the time to do your personal essay, fill in the application, double check the course you've got it right. And also if there's an interview section to complete before getting accepted, I think really commit the time to prepping for that. We had readings to read ahead of it and to answer questions on. So I think really give yourself the headspace to read about that. As you would prep for any interview, I think really prep for that as well, because you get to actually meet the lecturers or maybe the head of the faculty that will be running your program, so it's great to make a really good first impression then as well. So I think that would be my big tip for the application.
That's a brilliant one. And we can't say this enough, do reach out to the heads of the program if you think you're interested, or if there's 2 different programs that you're kind of juggling between. absolutely reach out. They are so helpful. They want the happiest students in their course to make life better for everyone. So don't hesitate to get onto the different heads of programs, and you'll hear from all of them during the week for the ones that you care about. So we'll fly through some questions now. I'm going to start off with one from Chiselham, which is actually one that the DCU Alumni Office helped me with a lot when I was wrapping up my undergrad. Advice on wanting to take a gap year but not entirely sure what course you want to do for a master's. I think take the gap year and then you'll know. I was about to run, and there's no problem doing this if you know where you're going, but I was running in headless to the student assistance office at the end of my undergrad, being like, I could do a master's in journalism immediately. And they were like, maybe take a little breath, go out and work, go out and see the world a little bit, and come back in a few years when you kind of know really what you want to do. Because as we said, big investment in time and money, and you just need to be really, really sure that this is what you want to do, and you can see the purpose for the next step that you want to go off onto. So I would say don't put loads of pressure like I did on yourself to have it all figured out now. Go off, see the world a bit, try some different jobs, and then you'll get a really good feel for what masters will suit you and what will be really useful for you to go on and study and what you'd be really passionate about, because you're going to invest a lot of time into getting it all done. And then Keelan, I might go to you with this one first, and then I might add some bits as well. Any tips for studying part-time and working full-time? It's not an easy juggle, but it can be done. We're living.
Yeah, it's not the easiest. But I think it goes down to time management. Everyone's work days are super busy. So I think, take a break from that, then step away. If you're working from home or working from the office, get away from the desk for a little while, and then dedicate a few evenings that you're going to get, your readings done, your assignments kind of planned out and prepped. There is weekend classes involved as well. So I think just keep that in mind. It's not every weekend, but there is that time commitment then as well that you do need to put towards it. And then use that, if you're out on campus, use the afternoon then to maybe head to the library and use the resources. There's amazing resources on the library as well, online tutorials as well. So really use them to your advantage. And I think my biggest thing is do not leave everything to the very last minute. I think that's the biggest. It can't really be done at the last minute when you're doing a master's. So I think just it all comes down to your time management skills, I think.
Absolutely. And I'd love to reiterate there the brilliant resources the library have with helping you study. And we have a platform called Loop, and there's lots of brilliant things about planning out your time and brilliant study resources and other supports physically in DCU as well to help you with all of that. So don't get overwhelmed with that. I had woeful time management until I started my master's, and needs must, I've magically learned how to do it now. I'm going to fly through a few more of these. There's one there about accommodation. If you're not taking on-campus accommodation, DCU is really well served by public transport. The rental situation in Dublin isn't good at the moment, but there is still options out there. There are a lot of other student accommodation that is like affiliated with DCU or is close to DCU, but it's not necessarily on campus. But there is the DCU Student Centre. I might be getting the name of that wrong, but if you get in touch with that, they'll give you lots of help. We have a brilliant students union here as well. They can help you with all of these queries. If you are already applying for a course and you want to pop through and ask them some questions, there's lots of people offering digs and different things like that. So there are loads of options. I'm going to direct the question from Kevin about the chaplaincy masters. If you maybe ask that to the course head, they would have a much better insight into that than I would. I'm sure that we've given a talk some stage during the week as well. And was there one more question for us to squeeze in before I let you lovely people go? Do we have another question? Okay, so this one is an interesting one, and it'd be nice to see if anyone has any insight on this, and then I think we will wrap things up and go on to the next panel. But someone saying that a lot of YouTube videos mention the previous work experience as a must for getting a job after a master's course in Ireland. I was wondering if that's true. I would say that a lot of us, the courses in DCU are really industry linked. So there'll be options for getting different work experience and great contacts and networking through DCU. So that might help a little bit. But does anyone have a bit of advice on that they'd like to come in on?
Yeah, I would certainly like to speak about this because I myself have like around 2 years and 11 months of experience back before coming here for my master's. So yes, obviously some previous work experience helps you because it gives you that corporate experience that is required so that there's not a lot of pressure when you're done with your masters and you're applying for a job. You have that confidence within you. But then, like, if you're a fresher, DCU has a very good career services, and then they have an entire portal where you can apply for jobs. So some countries have a placement kind of a thing. Say, for example, if I speak about India, India has placements happening. So it's not something that happens for a master students for computing for my major. So it's like career fairs where you just apply. Then there's like DCU has its own. Then there's Grad Ireland, and then are a lot of portals. You just apply to it. You build your resume really well so that your resume gets screened. And for all of this, DCU has services. DCU guides you for each and everything. And DCU has a best postgraduate graduate employment rate, which is the number one in Ireland. And saying so, it's globally on a very good level as well, like probably in the top 20. So that's really commendable and remarkable, and you can back TCU for that. So that is what I would say. And yes, obviously, previous work experience matters, but over here, it's just the skill set which is considered. So if you're skilled enough, the experience wouldn't make much of a difference. It's just that the confidence that is there would just differ and alter a bit. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Ankit. And I must say, yeah, the DCU Career Service are forever sending all of the updates about postgrad deadlines for different jobs that employers in Ireland are looking for postgrads from. So no doubt there'll be something to suit you there as well. Derek, Keelan and Ankit, thank you so much for joining me today. That was really, really helpful. So yeah, have good luck with the rest of your studies. And Derek, I'm so very jealous of you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now, guys, the next panel that we are going to move on to is going to be career focused. So these are people who are going to be able to talk us through any other questions you have about why you might want to come and study in DCU, not from the student perspective, but from an employer perspective. So maybe if you have questions like that, keep them coming in. But I'm delighted now to be joined by Elaine Daly, Careers Consultant in DCU, and Siobhan O'Shea, Client Services Director in CPL. So do keep your questions coming in. That would be absolutely brilliant to get all of them into exactly the people who can answer them for you. And I know the guys from the alumni office are working really hard to answer your questions in the chat box there as well. So we are going to kick things off as the questions keep flying in. This will be absolutely brilliant. Thank you both for joining me today. How are you?
Good. Delighted to be here.
Marvelous.
Same for me. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, my pleasure. And we've got people from all over the world locked in right now, pretty much every continent nearly. I think we've ticked off. If there's anyone from America, let us know, because I haven't seen any messages from you guys yet, but just about every other continent ticked off. So we will kick things off. If you just would both like to introduce yourselves and tell you what you can offer the students in here today, considering DCU.
Yeah, so do you want to start, Siobhan?
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Siobhan O'Shea. I am Client Services Director with an organisation called CPL, which is Ireland's largest talent solutions and recruitment company. And we also have a global footprint all across the world. We're owned by a Japanese business called OSI. So delighted to be here to talk around the importance, I suppose, of lifelong learning and why it matters, I suppose, in the labour market so much more than ever in such a buoyant economy.
Yeah, and I'm Elaine Daly, so I'm a careers consultant in the career service within DCU. So I suppose my perspective would be coming from my experience of working with maybe undergrad students who would be looking to progress on to postgrad study. And also I work with postgrad students in DCU, and also graduates up to 2 years post completion of their course. So I would work a lot with students around, I suppose, career guidance and coaching, and also helping students and graduates transition from DCU into the world of work. So happy to share any insights that I have.
Amazing. The question box is hopping, so I've no doubt we'll get through loads of those. But Elaine, I might go to you first and just ask about that progression journey. I know we had a question in already, someone kind of throwing up the idea of like, oh, do I take a gap year and what do I come back and do afterwards then? And like, I think a lot of the time people can just need to take a moment and breathe and go off and figure things out. But you are the exact person to help them with that. So what would your advice be about progression? I know we've a mix today of people coming back in from the world of work or staying in the world of work while they want to come back and study, and then others going straight on from undergraduate degrees.
This is something that I work with students a lot on. So I always look at like, what's your why? Like, why are you thinking of pursuing further study? Because you want to make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, and whatever your goal is, you want to make sure that whatever course you decide to pursue, it's going to actually meet that goal and get you to where you want to go. So the first place that this comes up, I suppose, where people have to articulate their reasoning and why they want to do it is in your application. So if you're not sure yourself what masters you want to do or why you're pursuing a master's, then you're going to even run into difficulty with your application. So I do always encourage students that I work with to really kind of reflect on, why they're thinking about doing a master's, and to make sure that they choose the right master's for them as well. And as you said, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure it out. But like that, taking some time, speaking to people, and just doing some self-reflection on it can kind of help you get that clarity and just make sure that you're making the right decision for you.
Amazing. And Siobhan, from an employer perspective, I know people are really keen to ask about working in Ireland after degrees. What do you see employers looking for in the current market?
Yeah, it's so diverse, I suppose, first of all, Fionnuala, in terms of the requirements that are out there in the current employment market. And the positive news is that the opportunities are nearly infinite. It's never been as strong. In my 20 years working in the world of recruitment, I've never seen it as positive. And we're seeing that even reflected in the constant updates in respect of unemployment numbers, back down at a low, having been at a high over during pandemic times. So I think that's incredibly encouraging for, anyone who's looking at kind of maybe from niche skills to maybe more generalist learning and being able to apply that in the world of work. Then there's huge opportunity, I think, as well, in terms of people to kind of upskill, reskill, embrace new, I think, arenas in ways that they may never have been able to do in kind of a pre-COVID world, because there's so much more openness, I think, to flexibility and that transformation that's happening in terms of transversal skills and the opportunities presented, I think, by the fourth industrial revolution as well, across AI and robotics and so many areas. We're pretty much busy across all our areas, and we'd have 16 kind of specialist areas ranging from pharmaceuticals to finance to healthcare, retail, office support roles, legal, and so on and so forth. And there's none of them that are not incredibly busy. So it's a really positive sign for all the students out there who are looking to their future career paths.
That's a really, really gorgeous, positive bit of advice to be taken away from this, given what previous markets people have emerged out into have looked like. So that's absolutely brilliant news for all the prospective students listening today. And then I suppose there's so many different reasons someone can come back to study. So we might delve into some of them. Sometimes you're looking to start off your career, but you want to get more skilled in an area before you go fully into it. Other times you're looking to transition or you're looking to level up. And I think we saw last year, kind of as the lockdowns fell away, we saw the Great Resignation, and now I'm coining it the Great Re-education, because we're all kind of seeing how we can get to that next level of where we want to go to. So Siobhan, I might ask you first, if people are looking for maybe career progression, how have you seen further study sort of benefit them?
Yeah, it's well, I suppose just I wear a few hats in addition to being a director with CPL. I would have chaired the Dublin Regional Skills here, which is one of 9 regional skills in Ireland. And I also work with the IUA and their microcreds project, which is a new initiative that's been undertaken. So I'm really close, I think, to that kind of the importance of education and skills in driving, I suppose, a continued successful economy, and for driving, I suppose, the passion, I think, within people for lifelong learning. So what we are seeing is that companies are investing a lot in, programs where, people have the opportunity, I suppose, to take on further higher educational opportunities. And I think there's a huge momentum that's been created because of that, and that if you see your colleagues are taking on a further learning opportunity or a course, it kind of piques your own personal interest, and particularly within areas of passion or need within a business. So for example, one of my own team is doing some further learning at the minute around the whole topic of sustainability, because it's a real business need within CPL and within every business really. And we don't currently have enough of the knowledge within the framework of our organization at the moment. So there's a huge opportunity, I think, for businesses who really latch on to this and invest, I think, in in their L&D investment funds, and in that the opportunity, I think, to partner with the ecosystem educationally across the country and internationally as well, to continuously create that mindset of innovation, creativity, and passion for learning that actually that kind of attitude fosters.
Amazing. And then, Elaine, I have always found DCU really, really well regarded. When I've been going around looking for jobs, I did communications. A lot of the people who now hire in the media industry had done that many moons ago, 10, 20 years ago now, and they're delighted to take in the graduates. What have you seen across the DCU spectrum of courses that people are being received in the industries that they're going off into? Is it always really positive? I found the courses really industry linked. And is that something that you see across the board is really well received?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that DCU has a very good reputation. As mentioned in the last panel, we ranked #1 in Ireland in the graduate employability rankings for 2022. And we do continuously see that our graduates are very employable. It was mentioned as well about the industry links that we have. So we are a very industry focused university, and we do have very good relationships with so many employers across all sectors and all industries, and we are very much focused on, I suppose, ensuring our graduates are future ready and well placed to enter the world of work, both locally, nationally and internationally. So it's lovely to be able to work with students and graduates to I suppose show them the opportunities that are on offer. And as Siobhan was saying, it's a really good time, when you are a job candidate at the moment, that there's a buoyant jobs market out there.
Amazing. And I think even the course offerings in DCU really reflect that sort of cutting edge opportunity. I came back to study climate change, and I know you're saying as well, Siobhan, that there's someone in your space studying sustainability at the moment. So important. But the fact that those courses are even offered like ahead of so many other colleges, they just really always seem to be on the ball like that. And then there was a question there that we might go to, because I think this is a conundrum. I could relate to it a little bit. People kind of find themselves in, maybe whether they're in work and they've sort of hit a place that they're like, oh, I want a bit of a change now. How can I do that? I can reignite my career or go off jetting in a different direction if I do another course. So there's someone there who said, I'm currently doing an undergraduate degree, but I don't really want to pursue a career in it. Hence why I want to do a master's degree. Any advice for that? So I might go to you first with that, Elaine. And I know we talked about the why earlier, but I think this is a really good thing as well. If you've already figured out by process of elimination what you're doing now is not what you want to do, that's like reverse engineering it in another way. So what advice would you have for people feeling like that?
So where they're doing an undergraduate degree, but they know that they don't want to pursue a career in that area. Yeah, so I think it's really about, I suppose, like that kind of as a careers consultant, I always kind of look at the individual first, and it's all about kind of developing your own self-awareness. So having an understanding of what's important to you in terms of your career, where your interests lie. And we look at things like even hobbies and interests, modules that you have enjoyed, or other areas of interest, or other topics or things like that you might be interested in, and having a better understanding of yourself, even in terms of things like your personality, skills that you have that you like using, what are your strengths, and just, I suppose, then kind of when you're equipped with a certain level of self-awareness, then it's a lot easier to kind of explore your options and rule things in and rule things out, because you do have a better idea of what would suit you. And like that, it can sometimes be a process of elimination that you're kind of saying, no, I know I definitely don't want to do that. Sometimes as well, we would look at, well, what was it about the course that you're doing that appealed to you initially, or what were you hoping to get out of it first day? And maybe it's not going to give you that now, but there could be a little clue there. That's what we're doing. We're always kind of looking for clues. You know, are there any interests? Is there anything in particular that's important to you? And try to align that then with a career area. But it takes time. It does take work, but it's worth it at the end of the day if you can find a course of further study or a career that's going to give you job satisfaction and you know, give you, you know, motivation and happiness at the end of the day, because it pays off, because it has such an impact, I suppose, overall, you know, in terms of the bigger picture and your life in general. But I'd say start with self-awareness, reflecting on yourself, and go from there would be my best advice.
Amazing. And Siobhan, I might ask you a similar question as well, more from the career side of people who are in work and they're maybe not in a space that they love anymore. They might have outgrown what they're doing and they're looking towards education to go off and find themselves in another direction. Now, it mightn't be supported by their employer. They might want to use it to go off and find a new employer. What advice would you give for people considering education from that mindset?
Yeah, you know, it's incredibly common now, so it is. And it actually ends up turning into what we describe as portfolio careers, so that people have lots of different things that they try over their entire lifetime, career-wise. So education can be a great route to, I suppose, that transitioning into a new career, or taking on just maybe a side hustle sometimes. Even that we're seeing a lot of people do that as well, that they maybe stay within their job, but they take on, you know, new opportunities on the side. So, you know, I would be hugely encouraging of it, because I think life is too short to do something that you're not happy in. And, you know, given that we are in this incredibly strong, robust market, there's no reason not to kind of raise your head above the parapet and say, how can I position myself best for those opportunities? And whether that is becoming more specialist by taking on you know, learning that is very, you know, specific to the area that you're looking to transition into, or whether it's about, you know, thinking about ways that will help you stand out in the market in terms of, you know, micro learning or whatever it is, you know, from a further learning perspective. I think it can really make a difference when it comes to your CV landing in front of an employer for an opportunity, to be able to show that you're highly motivated and that you're well educated and very focused about what you're looking to transition into. So I think, first of all, it's about knowing, you know, what it is you're looking to move into. You know, if it's a case that, like, I myself have done lots of different things over my career. I didn't always work in sales and recruitment. I actually worked in the States for a number of years, and I worked on Wall Street in finance initially and didn't like it, and then moved into actually television, loved it, but it wasn't going to be my lifetime career. So I'm probably one of those people who has actually embraced exactly what I'm saying to do, to take on further learning. And I've gone back myself over the years and taken on extra education to help kind of enhance my own skill set and my own knowledge base. So I'd be hugely encouraging of what it does for your own growth mindset, for your own personal and professional development, and the opportunities it can unlock for you and your future career.
Absolutely. I think the lifelong learning, and I'm delighted with that new phrase, portfolio career. I definitely
There you go. Yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant. There's loads to take away there. Thank you so much, Elaine and Siobhan. That's really, really helpful for everyone listening in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. And now we are going to move on to a segment now from Barry Mclaughlin. He is with the Communications Clinic. He is a senior consultant with them, and he is going to tell us how to make our applications stand out. So no doubt he's going to have some absolutely brilliant tips, and you can keep the questions flying in. Hopefully we can answer some of those as we go along, and the team are working really, really hard to get messages back to you in the chat as well. So brilliant to see so many of you engaging with it. I hope you're finding lots of really interesting advice so far and figuring out all the places to get more advice. As we say, this is just the launch event of the Postgrad Information Week. There is going to be loads more coming up this week, all the different course heads talking about what they can offer, whether it's the right course for you. So I couldn't recommend enough. If there's a course or a few courses you're thinking about, please do tune into them. You can find the full schedule on the website. And now, any moment now, Barry Mclaughlin will be joining me and we will hear all about how to make our applications stand out. So you can be much more organised than I was when I signed up for my Masters and had about a night or two max before my course was closing to throw together my personal essay. I'm going to hear now how I should have done it. And then we will be able to get all of yours glowing and get you the course places that you want. Big thanks to Niall in the chat answering everyone's questions. He is absolutely flat out there working away. So if you have any more questions, Niall is the absolute man to point you in the right direction. He knows all there is to know. And shortly we will be chatting all about the application process and how we can get that going as well as possible for you. If anyone has joined us from further afield who hasn't introed themselves yet, it would be marvellous to hear from you and where you are too. And then we will get this presentation going shortly. I imagine Barry is just having a little bit of trouble getting into the system, but he will be with us any moment now. So feel free to interrupt me with a shout out. I hope you've really enjoyed all that we've been chatting about so far. Really interesting for me to hear about other graduates and their experience. Hello, Barry.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry. Apologies.
You're fine. I think I've heard enough of my monologue. You have come in at just the right time.
Well, I just picking up from the excellent points made by yourself and Siobhan and Elaine. I think one of my portfolio careers is going to be IT, because I just want to. Your colleagues were absolutely brilliant to me this morning. They've taken a complete numpty and they've turned it into someone who can basically work on computers. So apologies for keeping you waiting, guys. Entirely my fault. But listen, thank you very much. And I suppose I was very interested in listening to the last conversation about, people taking opportunities. And one of the things that in my line of work, I work with people who are applying for roles or applying to maybe to get into courses or whatever. And I think one of the problems we see, Fionnuala, is particularly that people don't really think about, well, how I present myself on paper. So I work for a company called Communications Clinic, and we do exactly what it says in the tin. We advise people on interviews, on presentations, on media and all that kind of stuff. But the interesting thing is that when you're meeting someone face to face, you have a very good idea of what mood they're in or how they're coming across. But when you write a cover letter or a CV, you don't actually know how people are going to read it. So people are going to read it in the mood they're in. And we have to assume that people have a very short space of time to actually get an impression of you based on the written word. So I just want to maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that people need to consider and things we have seen, the advice we give people around writing cover letters, around writing CVs, but also if you're applying to, say, for somewhere like DCU, for example, what are the things that if you're thinking of applying for a course, how do you make yourself stand out? How do you make yourself impactful? So I'm just going to share a very brief presentation on this. So I'll just get this up and running here now. Just bear with me 1 second, and hopefully we should have here now. So I think I don't know if you can stop sharing there. It might not be working there now. Just 1 second. See, can we get? Oh, here we are now. Okay, so we should have the. So can everyone see that there? Can you see that the presentation there?
I can indeed. It looks
perfect. Okay, grand. Now, so I was just making a point that readers read what you write in the mood that they're in. So, first of all, your writing must be precise to their needs. So, if you set yourself a goal, I'm going to write a lot of stuff. I'm going to apply to 10 employers, and I'm going to write this in a way that I'm going to get 10 of these out as quick as I can. I'm going to change the title at the top, and I'm just going to write the same thing out, whether it's a CV or a cover letter. It's actually never going to be effective, because what you really want to do is you want to be making sure that you're writing something that is specifically to their needs. And we're going to look at a little bit at that in more detail in a few minutes. The second thing is must be reflective of the requirements of the role or the objectives of the course of the program. So, for example, we heard Siobhan talk about her own journey in terms of sustainability. We've seen some of the other speakers have talked about issues around climate change and programs that they can do around that. So if you're applying for a course on climate change or sustainability, you need to be reflective in your own application of what you understand about it and why you want to do it. Because remember, if you're applying for a college program, one of the things they'll want to know is that you're doing it for the right reasons, that you genuinely have an interest in this area, and that needs to be reflected in the language you use, the examples you use, and etc. And remember that one size does not fit all. So if you have a standard CV that you send out, and it's just the same CV you're sending out all the time, we may have an issue there in terms of making it land and making it impactful. So I want to give you a couple of examples of how we can fix that. The first thing is just to be very clear that there are loads of places to look for opportunities. So we had a very good discussion about LinkedIn and job websites earlier. And again, LinkedIn is a really useful tool because not only does it obviously give you opportunities for jobs, but LinkedIn gives you a sense of what's happening in an industry, what companies are up and coming, who's interesting to listen to or watch. So do you look at thought leaders? Do you look at the people who are maybe driving the agenda in the sector you want to go into? Then we talk about looking at the newspapers, and I talk specifically about the business sections rather than recruitment. Recruitment section, okay, you can see there are jobs advertised, but newspapers are a great way to actually see what's happening in a sector, what's happening in an industry. And then, of course, your personal network. And I think this is something that people really need to use and exploit as we go through your career. So I was one of those people actually who changed career about 10 years ago. So I'm not quite sure I could describe myself as having a portfolio career, but I came from professional services. I was a lawyer for over 10 years. The recession came. I decided I wanted to try a different job. And one of the things that I found very difficult to do was to tell people I was looking to change career. It was almost like something that, gosh, why would you do that? I was having these discussions with people like, you trained to be a lawyer. Why would you want to go and do something else? But actually, as I got over myself and started talking to my network, people were more than happy to help me out and say, oh, look, there's an opportunity there. You might like to do something else there. So use your network, engage with people, think about your network, and think about using your network as a source of data and information. Now, I highlighted there on the screen there newspapers and the business sections. I want to give you an example of what I mean by this. This was in the Irish Times a couple of years ago. It was an innovation profile about a plan to speed up Dublin City Council's digital journey. And, there's the mayor sitting there quite happy. There's the image behind him and all that. You'll always see these profile pieces in different...
Sorry to interrupt there. I think it's just not moving along with the way you're talking. So if you click through the slides, we'll be laughing now.
No problem at all.
And then, do you see where it says comments down on the bottom right-hand side?
Now, 1 second. I'm just going to come back up here. I'm going to stop sharing here now. Bear with me 1 second.
If it's any consolation, I was not familiar with this platform either, and Niall kindly told me that I was letting everyone hear my warm.
No problem. Well, look, do you know what I'm going to do? Apologies. I'm going to because I'm not sure what's happening with the slide deck, but I'd encourage you, if you can, you all do this. If you go into the newspaper business sections, you're going to find a picture, and somebody's going to be sitting like this, very happy with themselves. It's a profile piece. Probably be a man, but we'd like to see more women as well doing this. And there's the business behind them or whatever. And you might look at that and go, gosh, that's someone very successful or someone doing very well. What's that got to do with me? They're the kind of people you need to be watching out for and going, well, she's doing that interview. And most of the time they'll be talking about opportunities for expansion, new areas they're going into, and etc. So really the point I'm making to you is that you want to gather as much information about the company, the sector, the firm, the course, before you actually start the whole business of applying. Okay? And that I'm just saying that the more information you have, the better and more credible your application is going to be. So, for example, if you wanted to join an energy production company, finding out what their thought leaders are talking about, where they're speaking, what events they're at, what have they contributed to on LinkedIn. All of that is useful for you because you get a sense of the culture of the organization, and it makes your application that bit more interesting. So if you were able to say in a CV or a cover letter, I read your recent piece on LinkedIn, or I saw you doing the interview, that's actually people are going to go, that's tailored to me. That's somebody who's actually taken the time to do something specifically for me. So look out in the business sections, particularly in the Sunday business papers, of the person with their arms folded, very happy, everything's going well. That's an opportunity for you to look and go, well, actually, can I learn something there? Can I contribute to that? Is that a company I'd like to work with? So that's one thing just to consider when you're looking to apply. When it comes to the whole business of writing CVs and cover letters, one of the things we always see is that the cover letter, for example, tends to be a version of the wonder of me. I'm great. I'm brilliant. Gosh, I'm amazing. Everything is great. Your cover letter should have a couple of distinct pieces. And again, I'll share this deck with everyone afterwards as well. But essentially, you need to have three components. The first component is state very clearly the job you're applying for. A large organization could have 30, 40, 50 jobs up at any time. And it's a courtesy, very clearly the job you're applying for, and maybe if there's a reference. The second paragraph needs to be why you want to work for them. What's interesting about them? Because an employer will look at a cover letter and a CV and probably spend no more than 10, 15 seconds. And if they get a sense that this is very pro forma and just written in a generic way, it's not going to land. Whereas if you can say, look, at one of the things that attracts me to your company or to your program or to your course is the following, that's going to get their attention very early on. And the last paragraph needs to be a quick summary of your achievements that are relevant to them. We don't need to repeat the CV, but if you could highlight achievements, and I really mean achievements rather than activity. So what is it you've achieved, what it is you've done? And that can be something in college, it could be something in work, it could be in the voluntary sector. But achievements are good, and I want to talk a little bit more about that with the CV as well. When we get to writing the CV, most of us will have an opportunity to put a little paragraph in called a personal profile at the top. So it's a little summary of your career. So my summary might describe my career journey, or Fanula's might describe her own work or whatever. But what you really need to do is you need to tailor that to the company or the role you're applying for. So, for example, if I'm very proud of the fact that I'm a self-starter and I show great initiative, that's great. But if the job specification is looking for someone who can collaborate and work with teams, there's not much point in highlighting a skill or career if they're not interested in. So it's almost like you look at what are they looking for, and you try and summarize that briefly in the if you like, the piece at the top, the skills profile. So every job is going to be different. Now, we're not talking about gilding the lily or making things up, but think about what they're looking for, and can you match that? So we're looking at key achievements. When we get to the CV then, and I'm not prescriptive on the CVs, but there's a couple of things we need to remember. First of all, we should have no errors or no omissions. If you went traveling for 6 months, you went traveling for 6 months. Nothing wrong with that. If you have a lot of activity on your CV, make yourself stand out with key achievements. So, for example, what did you do during COVID? If you were working with a firm at the start of COVID, how did you cope with that? Is there an achievement there? Were you put in charge of something? Likewise, if you're applying for an academic position or to get onto a course or program, what is it you've done specifically that would be relevant for that program? So is there a module you're particularly interested in? Is there a book you've read? Is there something you've studied on your own bat? Maybe a paper you've done? Draw those things out specifically as well, so you make it easy for someone glancing at your CV to say, well, actually, what have you done well? So your CV really needs to reflect three things: what you did, where and when you did it, and how well you did it. And if your CV is detailing a lot of activity but no achievements, it's actually harder to get that point across. And if you're changing careers or changing industry, one of the things that makes something understandable is scale. So if you said I worked as part of a successful team, well, how many people were on the team? Actually 10 on the team. for example, if you're dealing with customers, what were your targets? Did you hit them? What kind of a revenue stream? So little details like that, even if you're changing jobs or careers, size and scale and numbers make things a lot more understandable. Okay? So I challenge all of you to look at your CVs tonight and say, right, have I an opportunity to tailor it for each role I'm applying for? Or if I'm going for an academic or a training program, can I make it relevant to that? And is my CV, are my achievements very clear and obvious? Or do you have to kind of go hunting down to see exactly where they are? And I would encourage you that if you can keep your CV to about 2 pages, that would be brilliant, because that gives someone a good chance to look at it and go, okay, I can get a good sense of this person. It's enough that they bring you in and they want to ask you questions and hopefully put you through for interview. Okay? The last thing, yeah, sorry.
Just about to hit time there, and I'm conscious people want to get off to the other different faculties talking about the courses as well. I think it's so interesting what you're saying about presenting yourself on paper. As a journalist and an editor, I've seen that so many times when people have done the most incredible thing in the world and they're not telling the story of it, or every sentence is like I, and it becomes really boring. So like, do you have any key tips just before people go off for their application, whether it's to get someone you trust to kind of read over it or see what you're missing, see if you're underselling yourself? Are there any little hacks like that they can go away and think about as well?
2 things. Ask yourself, what are your 3 biggest achievements that will be relevant for that position, and make sure they're clearly expressed. And to take your second point, get someone else to look at your CV as well. You know, we are very bad at correcting our own mistakes. Anyone who's ever done copywriting will tell you that. So our brain thinks we're brilliant. We don't correct our own mistakes. So if you can get someone to look at it, and, you know, it is not acceptable to have mistakes. It just isn't in this day and age. So take the time, check twice, send once.
Amazing. Oh gosh. Okay, so you guys haven't even signed up for a master's yet or a diploma, but Barry has given you homework. You have to go off and do your CVs tonight. So you're already going to be busy with your studies. Shiva, that last question there, I would say go to the computing talk that's on today and see if that program head can get you in touch with someone else on that course. So you can link up and have a chat about that then. Thank you all so much for joining the launch of our Postgrad Information Week. And there's so many events on all week. For whatever you are thinking of studying, go and get all of the information you can. Knowledge is power, and that will help you make the right decision for you. Barry, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to everyone all over the world and all over Ireland who joined us today as well. And best of luck in your studies. Hopefully I might see some of you around campus when I'm graduating. All limbs crossed to get my thesis done this time next year. So enjoy your postgrad.